Well, welcome folks. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's about 6:30 and welcome to the meeting of the Harwich Board of Appeals on this date, April 24th. The purpose of this meeting is to hear and decide applications before the Board of Appeals which have been brought pursuant to the bylaw of the town of Harwich and the Massachusetts Zoning Enabling Act. As required by law, the town may audio and video record this meeting, which we are. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Probably be the first, but it hasn't happened yet, but okay. During this meeting, the chair will recognize promptly a member of the board, the secretary, the attorneys presenting the case, the town council, to inform the chair if a protocol is not being followed. While in open session, those wishing to present comments or ask questions regarding a case are requested to fill out, actually, do we have that tonight? Yeah, a form to fill out in case there's a...
For continuance, I can just print one real quick.
I don't think we're going to have that issue anyways, okay. Regarding, fill out a form on the podium, whatever, you know, in case they want to speak. The chairman now would like to ask each board member to identify themselves, starting with the board secretary.
Rachel Lord, zoning compliance officer.
David Nunley.
John August.
Kenneth Dixon.
Chris Murphy.
Dave Royer.
Alexander Donahue.
Brian Sullivan.
Amy Questle, Town Council.
Okay. Now, if you might go ahead and read the first case.
Case number 2024-06. David Cosby through the attorney Benjamin Zender, 62 A Suite B, New Orleans. The property is located, the owner of the property is located at 481 Depot Street, Assessors Map 36, parcel B1 in the IL and RR zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit or any alternative, a variance from 325 attachment 1, table 1, use regulations, or in the alternative, a variance 325 attachment 1, table 1, use regulation to construct a new self-storage building. Let's see.
A special
For a
permit.
special permit, all the alternative attachment table 1, attachment 1, table 1, use regulation, construct a new self-storage building. It says that one,
Or a special permit on the alternative.
Or a special permit in the alternative. Dimensional variance of 325, attachment 3, table 3, height and bulk regulation. Increase the building and site coverage in the RR zoning district portion of the property pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaw 325-52 and 54 Mass General Law 40A section 6 and 10. This case is continued from March 27, 24.
Okay. At the last meeting, we actually, this case got continued actually after open session was closed and public comments were closed, but it has been re-advertised. So we're going to begin things right from the beginning and work through all the stages of a standard meeting. Okay. So we first start with the applicant, if you might introduce yourselves.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Madam Council. My name is Ben Zender, and I'm here on behalf of David Crosby.
Before we go on, Brian, you need to identify who's going to vote.
Actually, no. I could, but based upon the recommendation from town council, we need to do that going forward after open session has been closed.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
It's like
That's
that.
not quite all right, but thank you for...
It's like not knowing who the alternate jurors are. So, So my name is Ben Zender. I'm here on behalf of David Crosby, who I thought would be here, and hopefully he's coming. But you're all familiar with the project. We have presented it a number of times before. We've worked through some legal issues, but I'll start from the beginning with this. The requests that are in front of you tonight are a little unusual, and it's because the lot itself, as you can see from the site plan, is partially in the IL zone and partially in the RR zone. The proposal is to, in its simplest form, to take an existing roughly 1800 circa building that contains 2 dwelling units and convert it to a 4-apartment multifamily dwelling. Because multifamily dwellings are not permitted in the IL district, that requires a use variance from your zoning code, which is one of the reliefs that we've requested. The other use that's proposed on the property would be a new single-story metal fabricated self-storage building surrounded by a fence with various site improvements as shown on the site plan. The self-storage use is not permitted either by right or by special permit in the RR district, which is the southern part of this lot, which requires a use variance for that particular use, as we've discussed previously. Additionally, in looking at the site plan, you'll notice that the zoning compliance table is broken into 2 sections, one for the RR and one for the IL. We have to look at those particular dimensional requirements separately for each portion of the lot. And so based on the percentages of the lot coverage and building coverage, there's the existing building coverage in the RR portion is 6.5%, and we'd like to increase that to 17.6, where 15% is the maximum. That requires a dimensional variance. And then also site coverage on the RR portion of the property is currently 27.5%. We'd like to go to 52.8, where 25% is the max. And you'll notice, that on the site plan that we've got that called out as well. So just procedurally, we've been in front of the planning board for this. Initially, we believed that we required a special permit for the multifamily dwelling based on your town council's advice, which I think is absolutely correct. Because the multifamily dwelling use requires a variance, there's no mechanism for granting a special permit by the planning board, so they're sort of taken out of that equation. So the use variance for the multifamily dwelling is on your table. But we do require planning board site plan review, which is required for essentially all commercial activity or mixed-use activity in the town. We've been in front of the planning board. We were in front of them last night. They had no concerns that need to be addressed, and they're essentially, I think, ready to vote. And they indicated that they would have a positive vote, but one of the things that's in front of them is a stormwater management report, which is not technically required, but we provided. And your town's consultant, VHP, has a contract. I believe it's 2 or 3 weeks. If I don't know exactly what it is, but they need some time to review that stormwater management report and make their recommendation of the planning board. So because of that, our planning board hearing has been continued until May 2nd, where we'd like to both get feedback from the town's consultant and also hopefully, have a positive recommendation from this board as well to take to the planning board on May 2nd. So I'm going to stay away from special permit granting criteria just because I think all of the reliefs that we're requesting are variances. Unless the board in its discussion believes that, any of these are special permit grants, which in my listening to the board and listening to your council previously, I believe those are all variance grants. So in order to grant a variance, there are 3 requirements that have to be met. And one is that we have to demonstrate a hardship, financial or otherwise, that would arise from the failure of the board to grant the relief requested. The second requirement is that hardship has to be owing or related to a condition on the lot that affects the lot but doesn't affect the district generally, and that condition has to be either shape, topography, or soil condition. And then finally, the relief has to be able to be granted by the board without substantially derogating from the spirit or the intent of the bylaw. We've discussed this at length. This is a difficult case in the sense that tying your hardship to shape, topography, or soil condition is difficult in many circumstances, and it's difficult here, although I believe that there are some shape factors. But your local bylaw specifically provides that you're authorized and able to grant use variances, which begs the question: how do you grant a use variance where you have to tie it to shape, topography, or soil condition, where uses generally aren't tied to those dimensional requirements? Usually, location of structures, height of structures, setbacks are tied to those things. I cited in my memo to you a case which the court was arguing that local bylaws can grant use variances, and there has to be some flexibility on the on the part of the board to grant those variances because of that dichotomy. In our memo sets forth our arguments. It's an unusually shaped lot. As the board is aware, partway through the process, it came to our attention, it came to everyone's attention that the zoning district line wasn't where it was shown on one of the zoning maps. We changed that, but the split lot creates a hardship for the applicant in that it's very difficult because especially when you compare the IL district to the RR district, most uses that are permitted in the IL district aren't permitted in the RR and vice versa, which means that you have to try to find a use of your lot that works for both those districts. This is, the proposal the applicant has here in keeping the residential structure, even though it's in the IL district, keeping it as residential, providing 4 units of housing is a benefit to the town and wouldn't require picking up and trying to move that house at significant expense just to move it, 100 feet down the road. The use of the storage units is a quiet use. It doesn't require septic. It doesn't require running water. It will only be utilized during the hours that you establish for the operation. It's essentially a fairly passive use. It's not a continuous use of the property. It's also, a fairly low building, roughly 12 feet in height. Part of what we did in the course of this review process by your board was we engaged with the abutters to the south. And as a result of that engagement, you'll note that there's a long line of Leland cypress trees, 3 to 4 feet tall, on top of a 3 to 4 foot berm. That's intended to screen this activity from the neighbors, and the fact that there's no second story and no residential use or anything in the southern part of the lot, we think leads to that relatively lower impact use of the lot. So the shape of the lot with those factors and not being able to utilize the lot and not being able to utilize it for the storage use creates a hardship for the applicant in the sense that they have to find a use that's compatible with the residential use. And as we've explained in previous hearings, there has to be a certain minimal size to a self-storage unit to make it financially viable for the applicant. And so we believe that this use and the granting of the variance or the failure to grant the variance would create a hardship for David Crosby. As you heard from him personally over a number of hearings, he's owned this property for a long time, been struggling to develop it, wants to make it viable for himself and for his family. And so we think that the financial hardship is there, the personal hardship is there, that it's tied to this split lot configuration and the shape of the lot, and that when the board members are out there and when you look at the neighborhood, you'll note there's a self-storage operation right across the street. This is on the sort of the liminal end of an industrial commercial district, that this use will be compatible with that portion of Depot Street. And I think you'll also note from the amount of neighborhood input in the process that there hasn't, other than the southerly abutter, whom we've engaged positively with, there really hasn't been any evidence from the community that this is in fact a use that is incompatible with the district or use that wouldn't be beneficial to the town. So I think with all those factors out there, that this is something that you can make your findings of fact and grant the requested variances. And again, I thank you for hearing this, and I thank your council for engaging in this for months. So, it's been a lot of time spent, so thank you all for that.
Thank you. Okay, I realize that for a lot of us, we've already asked a lot of questions over the last 4 meetings, whatever, so there may not be any new questions, but please please address them. And I'd like to start off with David.
I have no new questions. I'm good. No questions. You have no questions?
No questions.
No questions?
Wow. Well, I can't let, I gotta ask a couple, okay?
I knew I wasn't going to get out of this. Okay.
Just out of curiosity,
Please.
What, on the current site plan, what is different besides, is just the brim and the trees? Is that the only difference between this site plan and the last one we saw?
The difference is the berm and the trees on the south side.
Right.
From the first time it was proposed, you may recall, we were proposing 3 separate buildings.
Right.
And of which one of the buildings was closer to the southerly lot line. And we had a discussion about setbacks. That's been removed. The
Right.
building's been, the total square footage has been reduced. It's been made into a single building. And then at the top of the plan, the zoning compliance tables have been significantly revised based on the change of the zoning district line.
All right, so the difference between this plan and the last one that just showed the one building has
Yep.
been revision of the zoning compliance.
It's just the zoning compliance.
We had the
policy.
one building last time. I think
Yeah.
actually this one is the revision for those riprap spillways and the sediment control.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, John O'Reilly went back for the planning board and did a waste, a stormwater analysis, and you're right, he's put information regarding that on there.
'Cause I think we had the new building in the last meeting, right?
Correct, yeah, I just wanted, and just want to confirm, you feel the fact that all vehicles be able to be maintained on the property?
Yes.
Right. And you just discussed as far as the review of the planning board, and obviously you've been through with the discussion with the abutters regarding everything.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I have no further questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could raise one issue that it's a problem, it's not a problem, it's a mistake that I made in our narrative. We had indicated operating hours of 9 to 5.
Oh, thank you.
Which doesn't really work for storage units because people have to get out there before and after. So, we would suggest 7 to 7, 8 to 7, 8 to 6, something that gives them a little more time. David was gonna come in with the hours of operation for the operation across the street to see what they were, but, it's expected that the office employee will be there from 9 to 5, but that the storage units as you may or may not know, it has a keypad gate that is programmed so that it's only accessible during certain hours of the day. He can set that for whatever hours work. So we would love to be able to have some hours that are a little bit more expansive than 9 to 5 for the operation, so.
Based upon that, I'm not clear as far as who establishes those hours. And
I think that would be the planning board at site plan.
Wouldn't that be the planning board? Okay. So I would like to have you address that with the planning board
Absolutely.
and get their approval.
Sure.
Okay, and Rachel, if you follow up the fact that the planning board does issue, timeframe and, for the project, okay,
Certainly.
all right,
Thank you.
appreciate that. Okay, is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to us? Mike, you don't want to say anything?
No.
Okay, I just want to, all right. If there's no one else in the public, the chair will ask the applicant for any final comments. You all set? Okay. And then I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Who's that? Ken? Okay. And second by Chris. Vote on closing.
Aye.
Now, regarding voting on this tonight, I'm going to go with the board members who have heard all the cases so far, and that would be Al Donahue, myself, Dave Nunnally, and John August. And Ken Dixon did miss the last meeting, but he has filled out and completed the Mullen requirements. Okay? So voting on tonight would be Al, myself, Dave Nunnally, John August, and Ken Dixon. Now I'd like to have any discussion by the board?
Nope.
No.
Okay, all right.
Wait, I'm not gonna vote, but I do
You
think...
can absolutely in discussion, right.
Right, I do think the points raised by counsel in his, what do we call it here, project narrative are pretty persuasive in section C on the reasons for the use variance. In addition to the Kavanaugh case, there were a couple of other cases that deal with this concept of kind of a mixed-use neighborhood where there's residential and commercial within fairly reasonable proximity. And they have loosened, I guess, the requirements for the granting of a variance. And as I said, when one of the first hearings, you can't tie a use variance, it's almost impossible to tie a use variance to soil topography. I mean, if you tie it, the board, no board is ever gonna grant a use variance, in my opinion, or maybe 1 in a million. So I personally think we should grant, the board should grant the 3 use variances to this applicant. I
Excellent.
think it's a good fit for that particular site, and it's kind of an unusual situation where the board is not likely to face again. And one of the interesting things, of course, is the house itself is bisected by the zoning line. So a portion of it is in the RR zone, but the bulk of the house is in the IL zone. So the whole thing is very odd.
So I guess I would argue that shape most definitely plays into this project and the use
You could certainly
variances.
make that argument.
Because the lot is split by zoning districts, which the zoning districts are completely different. It's not like we have RR1 and RR2. You know, we have IL and RR, which are two completely different zoning districts. So I do think that soil shape topography, in this instance, we have shape that goes to the use variance. I agree that we almost would never be able to do this. This is a very unusual case that we can do this. Furthermore, the way that the lot is situated, it makes sense to have the commercial or industrial portion where they have it, rather than where the zone is. So, and like you said, the house is already mostly in the IL. So,
Right.
I think that this is a very unusual case where a use variance could clearly be defendable.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you because
Yeah.
that supports the granting of variance.
Well, come on, man.
I felt like I had to make my
Granted
pay. I
variance.
had to say something. I came all this way.
That's all I have to say. I think council, you did a nice job on that, giving us some justification where we started the first time around, so thank you.
See, Mr. Crosby has joined us, and
I was late, which is a rarity.
I just want you to know that the way things are going, I don't believe we're doing a continuance tonight. I just want you to be aware of that. But, I do want to make one comment regarding the split zone here. And just for the board, a few months back, we had a discussion as to the need of the town to incorporate in the zoning book, guidelines, a split zone scenario. And, at first I was kind of in favor of that. And then in discussion of the board, we went the next step of how many parcels in town, would a split zone affect? And we came up with a fairly limited number. And I think the membership here made a good observation, and we actually voted on it, the fact that we really didn't feel we wanted to establish a split zone in the town so that parcels, and be able to deal with parcels that are in a split zone, multi mixed use situation on their own merits. And this parcel here is a prime example, for the overall guidance from the board, discussion regarding not really pushing for a split zone requirement, because we're able to look at this parcel and do the right thing based upon the character of the neighborhood. And I think this parcel here, I think it works out very well for the mixed use, and in that neighborhood, establishing the project the way it's been laid out. Okay, so I was in support of it. Just so, because there's so many different motions here, and so that we would get things kind of eased through, I did, in anticipation that we may go forward with the approval tonight, as I always do, I did a draft of the motions, which town council has already reviewed, okay, based upon if we approve things as presented. So I just wanted to pass this forward to everyone, and as well as, attorney, you want to take a copy of this? Just so as Al reads, this is the motion that's going to be read here tonight, and you're on this one here. Okay, so I think I've got copies enough for everybody, so you want to pass it?
Not, I have one on my iPad.
Oh, okay.
So if you take that.
If I run short,
I do want to add one question.
Oh, sure.
Before we go to the motion, if that's okay.
absolutely.
I had a notice before, but why on the plan looks like the driveway goes into Depot Street?
Is we missing one? Okay, let's just pass this down.
Have enough? Yes, we're good. I'll wait till-
Is the member asking why does the curb
All right,
go
so we get an
into
extra
Depot
plan
Street?
back.
Isn't that the driveway? It looks like the existing driveway. The plan seems to show it going out into Depot.
It has to, because the driveway has to match the edge of the pavement. So it's not, It's just, they're going to be required through the road construction and curb cut regulations to match their driveway to the edge of pavement.
Okay, so the light line is the edge of the pavement.
Yes.
I've got a small one, so it's hard to read.
Yeah, you'll see right below Depot Street, it
Okay,
says
now I
edge of
see
pavement.
Edge of pavement, yeah,
Right.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Question answered.
So I'd first like to entertain a motion to close discussion.
So move.
Okay, Ken and
I'll second.
John seconded. Vote to close discussion. Motion, okay, all approved? All right. And, Al, the next step is, you want to read it? Do you want me to
Sure,
read it?
case number 2024-06, David Crosby to his attorney Benjamin E. Zender, the owner of the property located at 481 Depot Street, assessors map 36, parcel 81 in the IL and RR zoning district. Move to grant a variance from the use regulation table 1, attachment 1, table 1 to convert pre-existing non-conforming two-family dwelling into a multifamily dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws 32552 MGL chapters 48 sections 10 due to the shape of the property being in two zoning districts, as well as the topography of the land, as the failure of a board to grant the request relief will result in a substantial hardship to the applicant. I further move it to grant variance for use regulation attachment 1, table 1, to create a mixed-use development, demolish the existing barn and construct a new self-storage building in the RR zoning district portion of the property due to the parcel being in two zoning districts, as well as the shape and topography of the land, as the failure of the board to make this grant will result in a substantial hardship to the applicant. I further move that to grant dimensional variance 325, attachment 3, table 3, height and bulk regulation, to increase the building and site coverage in the RR zoning district portion of the property. The relief is a dimensional variance for 325, attachment 3, table 3, height and bulk regulation to increase the pre-existing non-conforming site coverage, as well as to create a new non-conformity by increasing the building coverage in the RR zoning district portion of the property pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws 325, 52, and 54 in MGL chapter 40A, sections 6 and 10. And as a mixed-use development, the failure of the board to make this grant will result in substantial hardship to the applicant. The board further finds that the conditions of granting these variants are specific to the property and do not generally affect the entire district. There will be no substantial detriment to the public good by the granting of the variances, and that in the granting will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. All work shall be performed in accordance with the plans. Said grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. Number 1, that for the life of the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on the public road or street. As a condition of granting this relief, the applicant must obtain a site plan review approval from the Harwich zoning board,
Planning board.
planning board. And number 3, a violation of these terms and conditions, these variances may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaw, general law, chapter 48, section 7, the Howard zoning bylaws, as these may be amended from time to time.
Are there any additional conditions that we feel need to be put on here tonight? Okay, I don't believe so. Any further discussion by the board? All right, I'd like to request a second for the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Ken? Okay, voting on the motion. All those in favor? 5?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you all. It's nice to work with you all.
We miss you.
I have to go away before you.
We might have to stop in next month.
Thank you.
Do you want me to stay for the next one?
Should be happy. Thank you. Could you pass this down to Rachel, please?
Thank you.
And that actually was the note. Planning board saying, for the health department.
Yes.
You can do this, make it a letter block here.
Yeah,
Do the fence there.
yeah, that's what kind of pushed me. The closest person.
Plugging the call.
What pizza time?
Okay.
We came in second.
Al, if you would call the next case?
Case number 2024-09, Kevin P. O'Neill, estate of Diane M. O'Neill, through the attorney William Kroll, Esquire, the owner of the property located at number 10 Homer Road, assesses map 23, parcel W36 in the RL zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit or any alternative, a variance of 325-54, non-conforming structures and use of 325 attachment to table 2 area regulation to construct in addition to the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws 325-54 and MGL chapters 48, section 6.
Okay, the,
The police department had no concerns with regarding this property, and the conservation department indicated the property is located within the AE floodplain and that no addition could be made without first receiving approval from the conservation
you
department.
want you to stop there for a second?
Yep.
Rachel, I was a little confused on the conservation, if it doesn't need, since the addition is not in the flood zone area, they're all set.
No, if the addition were to move to a flood zone area portion of the lot, then it would need conservation approval, but as
Okay.
it
Since it's
stands
not,
now, it doesn't
does
need.
not need, so
Yep.
does not need conservation approval. Okay, I'm sorry, I just want to get that clarified, I was confused, but go ahead.
Okay. The letters from Frank Cornwell, a butter at 8 Homer Road, is support of the plan addition.
Okay. All right, I'd like to ask the applicant to introduce themselves, representatives.
Yep, so I'm attorney Michael Donovan with Bill Kroll's office, here on behalf of Diana O'Neill. We also have seated here the builder, David Hanrahan, that's, Hanrahan, I say Hanrahan, it's Irish, that is doing the work they're going to do the work at the house, in case you have any questions of him. So it's a pretty straightforward, it's a ranch that's 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom at this point. It's on a lot that's non-conforming both for the size and the frontage. The setbacks have two that are conforming, the north and the west are conforming, but the south is not, and the east is not as well. There's only one, the addition is is just a single bathroom that's being added on the south side of the property, to turn that one bedroom there into a master bedroom for the owner. And that's the only change that's being made, and that's the only change to the setback, but the setback now is non-conforming at 15.8, and the change is going to bring it to 8.3, so it's intensifying that non-conformity. The building coverage and the site coverage are both right now conforming, and after this, they'll be conforming as well. So there's only a 0.3% change in both of those, both the building coverage and the site coverage. So we're limited just to that one setback on the southerly portion. The house right now, the roof, the elevation is 16 feet. This bathroom is only going to be 13 feet high, so there's no increase in the height of the building at all as well. And as noted, the abutter to the south, where the bathroom is going to go, is Frank Cornwell, who submitted the letter that hopefully you have there. It says, the last sentence, he says, "A neighbor and friend of many years, I'm in favor of the proposed plan." So there's no issues there with the neighbor in that area. And then, as we said, the police, planning, and conservation have all indicated that they don't have any concerns. So we're requesting a special permit to build that one bathroom on that southerly border. And as you know, per the Gale case, this board has the authority to grant a special permit if it will not constitute a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood. And here, I think it's pretty clear that there's not a substantial detriment. There'll be no negative impact to traffic, noise, odor, congestion. It's a small street, and the neighbor that's on that southerly side is fine and in support of the project. So for those reasons, we feel that the board is well within its authority to make the findings necessary to issue the special permit in this situation.
Okay, thank you. Like to have comments or questions from the board? David?
No questions.
None for me, it's pretty straightforward.
No questions.
No questions. No questions.
Just an observation, while at that property, that floodplain encircles the whole property in the back.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, from my own personal interest, the land itself is elevated above the property to the right of that. That's all fill in through there?
When you say to the right of the
Yeah,
building?
if you were facing the property of the owner of this,
Yep.
to the right, there's a ranch. And I just noticed that's appreciably lower.
Lower, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how that topography came about, originally.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
No further questions.
The only question I had is absolutely not pertinent, I think, to the case itself, but the front steps here are pretty high on that property.
We moved the step that was there and put a new one in. So it required a footing and all that, and it actually had to be a detached step in concrete because the front part of that step is in the flood zone.
Okay.
But it was the step that was there, we removed it, put a new footing and put it back.
Are you going to be grading in front of the
Oh,
property?
yeah.
To raise it up so you can actually be able to step
I
up
don't
on
think it's
this?
raised up much, I think just what got pulled out of there to do the step.
Right,
But they are gonna grade it, obviously, so there's only 2 steps going in.
okay. I don't have any further questions. I don't believe there's anyone in the public, but I'll ask, anyone in the public's going to, like to, speak to this, and hearing none, I think I can make a motion to close the public hearing. I'd like to hear a motion. Okay. Chris?
Second.
Yes, you can. Vote on closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay. think voting on the case tonight here will be Dave Ryer, Chris Murphy, Dave Nunnally, John August, and Ken Dixon. I'd like to now entertain any discussion by the board.
No questions.
Okay.
I think the case clearly meets the requirements of the bylaw in the Gale case. We're simply, once again, looking at an extension of a pre-existing nonconformity. I don't think there's any substantial detriment to the public good. We should grant the special permit. I think we might want to put on the condition with respect to construction time, because it is kind of narrow down there. I mean, the street, it's sort of not in the main area of town, but it's pretty narrow. I don't think we want them down there constructing, unless you can park on the property.
There's parking, yeah, there's parking on the property to the right of the front door.
Okay, well,
There's
just
a couple of
require that
spots
they
there,
park on
yeah.
the property then.
There's 2 spots there.
Standard condition.
3, all right, yeah. 2 to 3, yeah, spots there.
All right, so we're going to not, and thank you for bringing it up, David, I forgot to do that. So we don't need to put the time restriction on this.
No.
Are everyone in agreement on that? Okay. And, but we're gonna make sure all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property, not any public road or street. Okay, so we're eliminating number 1. Chair will entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Motion by John. I'd like to have a second.
Second.
Ken? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Al, would you like to ask the clerk to make a motion in this case?
Case number 2024-09, Kevin P. O'Neill, estate of Diane M. O'Neill, through her attorney. May I have your name again?
Michael Donovan.
Michael Donovan. The owner of the property is located 10 Homer Road, Assessors Map 23, parcel W3-6 in the RL zoning district. The applicant has been granted a special permit from 32554 non-conforming structures and uses and 325 attachment to tables to area regulation to construct in addition to a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaw 325-54 in Mass General Law, Chapters 40A, Section 6. The granting is consistent with the Gale and Diedrich cases and related cases, as the will be an intensification of one or more existing nonconformity and no new nonconformity, and a special no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing nonconforming lot. And as the proposed structure will not create an additional negative impact with respect to traffic, noise, odor, and congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunto is hereby denied. All work shall be performed. There'll be no time date. The property will be, construction equipment will be on the, all right, during the life of the project.
No, skip 1.
Yeah, that for the life of the approved project, no construction vehicles. Construction vehicle will be parked on the applicant's property and not in the public street away. A violation of the terms and conditions of this special permit may be enforced as a violation of Harwich zoning bylaw pursuant to General Law 40C48, Section 7, and Harwich zoning bylaw, as these may be amended from time to time.
Okay. Any,
I'll second the motion.
okay, no further discussion by the board? Okay.
No.
Okay. One second by Dave Ryer. Gentlemen, sign, would you vote on the motion, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
Chris and Dave, you weren't here at the last meeting when Attorney Kroll came and introduced Mike as one of his new partners in his firm,
His only partner.
his only
Yeah.
partner.
A long time coming.
Okay.
I hope you're aware that Attorney Kroll usually gives like a 5 to 10 historic narrative
Yes,
of the property.
I
so
am
hope you
aware,
can
yeah.
Help us out
I
with
have
that.
to bone up on that a little bit,
Okay,
yeah.
good, good.
It's on my to-do list,
Okay.
yes.
We're kind of disappointed that didn't happen tonight. but we'll-
That sometimes is a prerequisite, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, and he wears some pretty fancy tennis shoes too, you know, so.
I had mentioned that at the last meeting that was going to be required, and
Ah.
we failed to come forward with
Well,
it,
we're in a
so-
smaller room, I thought you were.
All right, so it's all approved? Good. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
my pleasure.
I do know that Attorney Crowell said it would only be occasionally that he wouldn't be here, but the first time he's not here.
He's on vacation this week.
It was a basketball game, that's something
Actually, I just wanted to kind of jump, while Amy's still here, I was just a question, maybe a discussion, just so I know. Amy had mentioned to me, it kept me wrong at the last meeting, that if a case is re-advertised, it isn't necessary to do the Mullen procedure?
Correct. If it's, well, it has to be completely renoticed, so it has to be re-advertised, abutter notices.
So,
everything.
oh, it has to have a butter notices,
Yep,
everything
everything
has,
has to
everything has to go out?
Yes.
Okay, this was just re-advertised, we
Okay.
didn't do,
No, I did send out new notices.
oh, you did do a notice as
Yep.
well? So everything gets redone,
Yeah,
then the Mullen doesn't, you don't need to do Mullen.
correct. And I don't think that Ken actually needed to do Mullen for the last meeting, because there was no testimony taken,
Okay,
because Mr. Zender, Attorney Zender, asked immediately to have it continued.
all right.
So
okay.
when you keep track of attendance, when you have these, hearings that go on forever, when you keep track of when testimony was taken or not. Because if there's no testimony taken, it's okay if you miss the meeting. If it's just an automatic continuance.
Yeah, there was discussion about the project at the last meeting.
We
But-
did talk a great deal.
But not really, because Attorney Zender, I mean, he definitely said, the minute he sat down, he said he was requesting.
So after
continuance.
that, it was all,
We more discussed the continuance.
right,
We didn't discuss the project at all. From my memory, which isn't great, but
I think it's great.
thank you.
so
I'm not
going
sure.
forward in the future, and particularly thinking about a, 40B scenario where it
Yes.
goes on for months.
Yes.
At some point, can we just re-advertise it and send out notices, all the butters, and then clean the slate for all the members, or is
Probably
that?
not for 40B.
I mean, for a 40, yeah, exactly. For a 40B, you have to be very conscious
I'm just
of
trying,
membership being at,
I
attendance.
okay, so that doesn't,
So a lot of times for a 40B, boards will hold a special meeting. So they don't do it on the night that they do all their other hearings, they do it on a separate night.
yeah,
And then you can ensure that you have your members
membership,
there.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And you don't always continue month to month, because you have things that are sent out for peer review, and then the peer review has to talk to their engineer, so it's usually every other month.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Well, thank you for being here
Thank you.
tonight. Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I will see you all, I'll be at town meeting this year,
Thank you, Annie.
both nights,
I'll pass that to Rachel.
participating 2 nights.
Take care, Amy.
Okay. I'll see you guys.
See you later. Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
I will note, our 40Bs have generally been smaller ones, but when we did the one on Main Street Extension, we probably had 4, 5, 6 special meetings.
Yeah,
Because there's so many people wanting to speak, and they redid the plans, and you can't really let it go on that length of time for a small one.
If I remember correctly, people who were going to speak, there was a time limit of 3 minutes to speak on it.
Ultimately,
And the
yeah.
people who would speak following could not repeat the same thing as the person sitting in
Right.
front of them.
Sounds like a good rule.
Though,
Excellent.
based upon,
That was the chairman's rule.
Very
yeah,
good. Good
but,
chairman.
given the new rule, I mean, we'll have a discussion about that before we get into 40B. And our next one probably won't be till Pine Oaks, which won't be till 2025, at some point.
Nothing's in the offing.
Not that I'm aware of, and based upon, I asked a question recently, based upon their progress and where things are at on the pools and the state and everything else, they're, in a way, that project got announced,
That's the
perhaps.
big one down in Queen Anne and.
Correct. We're not gonna see that till next year, at the earliest, okay? But it won't be this stuff is gonna be this year. Okay. All right. I just want to get my ducks lined up here. Did you hand out a final, we had a draft agenda. I didn't see a
I did hand it out, but
I didn't, okay, I apologize, I misplaced it. All right, thank you. Okay. Let's kick things off with, does anyone need a break? Okay, I didn't think so. Let's kick things off with the approval of minutes. We have an opportunity to read the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion, any changes?
we want to bring that up.
Yeah, just under the section 2, it's seconded by Mr., but we need to throw a name in there.
Okay, where are you now?
Public hearing, section 2. Mr. Sullivan made a motion to reorder the agenda.
Oh, seconded by Mr. Oh, God, I didn't pull up my, I don't know. Do anybody recall who seconded doing things out of order?
I can just go back and watch the video.
Yeah,
and make
I
the
don't think
correction.
it's,
It'd probably be.
let's go with Al, all right? I don't think,
I second that.
I really don't think the public, is gonna be, disturbed by the fact that we announced it was Al. Of course, it probably was Al, because he's the clerk. Okay.
On page 3, I think it's just a typo, the discussion about the shed. It's 100,
I see it, Al.
less than 100 square feet, not ST's feet.
What does it say?
Fourth paragraph
Says
in the bottom.
ST instead of square,
Oh,
SQ. Minor, but
okay.
Any other changes, guys? Okay. All right. On to new business.
Need a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, excuse me. Have a motion to approve the minutes, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wasn't there, I didn't vote.
Yeah, I'm not voting either, I wasn't there.
Okay. Minutes approved. Okay. New business, discussion regarding top of foundation memo. So, here's what, this is obviously a situation first was brought up, I believe, by John regarding looking at the plans, that we had more than one case this year where the site plans and the building plans showed the fact that height being based upon TOF or top of foundation, which is not the code. And looking things forward, we've had more than one case where TOF was indicated that way. Now, obviously going forward, Rachel's going to be, part of her review is going to be checking the plans that come in, that they do not indicate TOF. All right. However, all right, one thing that that I always have been trying to accomplish as chair is that we don't throw any surprises at the applicant when they walk in the door. All right? And also, let's take like this last case on 481. Had their architect, or actually, I think, that's what I'm trying to find, the gentleman who did the site planning, surveyor, had the surveyor had done his job properly, at least in my opinion, all right, and checked out the code, so forth, looked at the things here, because it was obvious that it was center of road. Here's a gentleman that probably, because his consultants gave him the wrong information, probably spent several $1,000s, to additional time and meetings to accomplish the goal. And in consideration of the amount of time that can be going down a rabbit hole in the wrong direction between building plans and so forth, I would like to notify, make sure that those who have already sent in plans, at least this year, showing TOF, that they get notified. That was, I'm not gonna tell them it's wrong at this point. We're going to be sending out an update as let them know, guys, these are the rules regarding building heights, how you establish them. So that way, anything that comes before our board, the attorneys as well as the builders we've used, surveyors that have sent in, done any kind of plans, they get notified that, yeah, you may have sent in that way before, but it's not happening going forward. And rather than have it end up coming to a meeting, or even at the time when it gets to Rachel's desk, they've already been down, a distance on doing the plans and expenses for that project. And in consideration of, citizens of this town not having to get backed up time-wise as well as additional expense-wise on a project, and I feel the fact I want to just send out this notification from the Board of Appeals. Now, the Board of Appeals doesn't report to the building department. We're our own entity here. We use the resources of the building department, and I look at it as if this is an issue for us, that I wanted to take the time and send this out to the general attorneys and builders and surveyors that we've seen projects from, and just send this update on how building height is established in the town of Harwich.
Why not put the statement right on the application? So that way, everybody that pulls an application knows the exact requirement.
I don't know whether the application, though, could be getting pulled after all the work is done.
No, I mean going forward.
Right, well, no, I mean, that's absolutely, and I know going forward, when Rachel sees TOF, it's gonna be, it's gonna be sent right back to them saying, guys, you were notified about this, wrong way of going. I understand what you're saying. I say that's a good idea. I wouldn't mind having a little piece on an application where it's
That's all you have
attached.
to do is add that.
Shouldn't all building being done in the town use the exact same code?
They do.
No, they don't. Apparently, we're gonna enforce something that the building department's not.
No, the building department is going to enforce it.
Then why do we have to do it?
Because I want to notify these people before they go down, people who are going to be going for appeals in front of us, at least for us. I don't care about the rest of the construction going on. I'm looking at residents that are going to make applications for our board and make sure their time's not wasted. And that they don't go into additional expenses like Mr. Crosby did in this last case, which probably put him in the hole, $3,000 to $5,000 because of not having information from a consultant that was wrong. And I just want to notify the consultants. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to make a list of 10, 15, 20 people and just have this sent to them. It isn't it's not a major undertaking here, right? And as far as notifying that, I'm doing the work regarding identifying the people and have the secretary, send out the letter.
That's why it should be on the application.
I don't disagree that perhaps in the application we could attach that as well.
That way, everybody that pulls it knows the requirement and that they've got to put it on the plans that they're going to submit to the board.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm not disputing that. But for the ones that we've already been seeing this year that think TOF is fine, I want to let them know the fact that, hey, guys, going forward,
Yeah, I mean, that was my original concern, was more the process. I think, I agree with you. I think letting people know as clearly as possible that, hey, these are the compliance things. But I still kind of get back to, having been through the process myself, right? The zoning compliance table that gets put on either the drawing, both the drawing and the application are completed by the applicant or their designer. But ultimately,
Right.
it's the applicant, right? So they're putting them in. So, to me, we're supposed to be addressing anything that's been rejected by the zoning compliance office, right? So my concern was that verification at that level, right, of saying, is
Exactly.
someone, if they,
I agree.
you can write anything you want in the zoning compliance table you submit. Is someone taking that table and looking at the drawings and saying, yep, I agree with all these, nope, that's top of foundation.
You're suggesting that's not us.
Yeah, I don't think it's us, but the reason I brought it up is things got to us that when I looked at the drawings, we're sitting here having a discussion about, lot size or lot coverage. And there's an unaddressed, variance request simply because of the way that the form was filled out. By the way the form's filled out, and the one I'm thinking of right off the top of my head, it said 29 and a half feet from top of foundation. But it was a sloping lot, right? There's no way that building was under 30 feet in the proper definition of zoning. But what had been advertised, what already got to us, was that it was, the variance was,
Yep.
a lot coverage issue or,
I just
Like-
want to add
yeah.
clarification to that one
Yeah.
specific project. It
Right.
wasn't a flood zone, and it did have to be elevated to
Right.
above base flood elevation.
Right.
So, and they're allowed to subtract that height from their total height, so that's how they got to.
that was the one down right at the shore, right?
Yep.
But there were a couple other ones too.
Okay.
Right? You get the 6-inch, But again, my thought was the process side of it,
Yeah,
right? Of saying,
absolutely.
is this board really supposed to be doing that evaluation, right? Or, merely evaluating what's been said to us, I think we get into issues. What happens if that's not in there, and then I bring it up, or someone brings it up and says, hey, I think there's a non-compliance issue? Is that going to, to your point,
Sure.
Brian, going to send those people back to another month of delay, to another, re-advertising and everything, and another public meeting when the information was available from the second they turned the set in, right? It was just a matter of someone ticking the time,
I guess that's my point in
Yeah.
putting it in the application.
Yeah.
Because then it's gonna say they've got to show that on the plan, which is gonna hopefully get the surveyors to make sure they do it the
Right.
correct way. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge the point.
I mean, I
That's
don't
mine.
mind sending a letter, but you really want to catch the people going forward.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
those that don't use the standard surveyors that we
Right.
see
Yeah,
frequently.
Ken.
How does planning and/or zoning feel about your letter? Because I don't think it should just come from us. I think either it should come from multiple organizations, multiple.
Planning department's got nothing to do with height.
Okay, who does?
Us on an application for zoning, it's us and as well as the building inspector. The building inspector, the commissioner, is the final
Yeah,
authority.
he's the one that's referred things to
The
us.
building commissioner did review that letter and did approve it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was kind of my point, because I don't want to send it out and have the building inspector not know that we sent it out to people to do his job.
Oh, no.
Because I'm with John, our job isn't to do that. Our job is to look at things that require special permits or variances.
I don't disagree with that, but I also, and I absolutely agree with the fact that it is not our job, okay? What I'm trying to look at here is avoiding having citizens go down a rabbit hole and have them spend their time and money because a past surveyor or builder said, yeah, TOF is fine, I put through 3 cases like this, and all of a sudden have them go down a rabbit hole, and we're gonna sit here and have a surveyor say, or a builder or an attorney say, hey, yeah, but you proved the last one
Well, even the one, and, like Rachel said, I know there's exceptions to, it's like even
on the flood particular.
floodplain, that was not highlighted in that case, right?
Exactly, that was still
It just said
TOF.
top of foundation, so I just envision a neighbor across the street or somebody else, when they actually start to see it getting built, saying, what the hell? This thing is huge, coming back and actually looking and saying, well, you guys never even considered building height because, it wasn't granted as part of the variance or accepted as that's the reason why
Right.
it exceeded the 30 feet. So it was just that matter of for me, it was more the ticking and tying, because, what else, I don't want to have to go through every package every month in the drawing and say,
Not our job.
it's not our job. Our job was, it got rejected because of this, we evaluate that, right?
I'm in favor, I'll go on record, I'm in favor of sending a letter out. Now that I know that the building inspector's seen it,
Yeah.
send it out. It can't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Dave's point,
And put it on the,
Yeah, I think you should do both.
Building
I'm
height
not
thing.
saying one or the other.
that's
but
fine.
You're still
Really,
at
when
risk of somebody doing that.
When somebody wants to do a project, it's their obligation, when they come into the building department, to make sure they've complied with the zoning.
Yep.
Okay, that's bottom line. Every
Yeah.
citizen that comes in.
It already is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That
But
required.
what's happened is, this is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
It's not obvious like setbacks, and it's a mathematical formula and everything. So I think it's wise to remind people. And if you go down to the Red River Beach and you look at that ugly structure that sits up, that was approved because, and I don't remember who, but some department actually gave this board the wrong measurements. So it's umpteen feet higher than it should have been allowed.
Wow.
But after, I wasn't there at that meeting, and after the fact, it was the town's mistake, so I wasn't gonna make a big deal, but it's kind of an eyesore if you're down there on the beach and look at it, because it's so damn high.
oh, the one on the right?
Yeah.
The one, that monster. It's, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet above the allowed height, even taking into account the, what's the
Floodplain.
section there, the seaside, whatever it's.
Floodplain regulation.
Yeah.
The floodplain regs, yeah.
All right, good.
And I'm not even implying that they've got to, you guys have to do the calculations for it. I just, TOF would set off an alarm for me. If someone turned in an application
I
that
mean,
said
we
top
can't,
of
that's
form.
the thing, we can't
you gotta
do the
give it back to 'em.
calculations
Yeah.
for them. We don't know,
Nope.
we're
Yeah.
relying on the information
Yeah,
that they're
so that's not
providing
the-
to us.
Right. That's not the appropriate.
When they come in for a building permit, do they have to bring a site plan with them?
I mean, depending on the project, but 9 times out of 10, they need a site plan.
But they don't necessarily bring the site plan until after, the site plan is due like 2 days before the meeting. When do you require the site plan to be?
You have to do it with the application
Does that come with the application?
for the.
Yeah, the site plan's due at the time of the application.
Application, okay.
Yep.
But we always have people revising them and then bringing them in prior to the meeting. That's happened more than once.
That's happened, yeah.
All right, so we have 2 things here. How you guys want to do it is fine with me, right? But what I'm hearing so far is it's okay if we send it out to a few people from the past, but we need to revise this so it can be attached to applications going forward in the future. Is that okay with you as well, Rachel?
Yeah, I can just add language to the application that
Yeah.
reflects the code.
Yeah.
Or even on the table where it says, building height, just
Yep.
reference the applicable zoning
Yep.
section that,
Is the building commissioner going to sign off on this? Because I agree with the rest of the board, this belongs with the building commissioner, not this board.
I mean, the building commissioner is always gonna review this information when it's relevant to the project. It's not information that he would skip over or not
I
verify.
think he's asking, is he okay with the letter?
Yes, he
Yeah,
did
he
review it.
he reviewed the letter.
Yep,
I
Did
did
it come
that.
from him?
I wrote the draft
No,
and
should
then,
it come from him? If it's
this
really
one,
his
no, this
job.
is, I would say no. I think this is a issue for the appeals board. It's not, we want people coming in, we don't want to see projects come to us. How they do it anyplace else, obviously, that's different, but the applications, for our board, I want them notified that we're looking at the building height. I'm assuming, going forward, the building commissioner in the office is going to be looking at TOF on every case. Other towns use TOF.
They do.
Yeah.
So we're an outlier.
No, we're not outlining it, but it's not necessarily, TOF is kind of standard. John, I mean, you've seen other projects, I've seen other
yeah, I mean,
projects.
it's a common reference,
Right.
particularly for the builder, to be, calculating with their needs for material and whatnot. But it's not the zoning variance. That was the issue, right, is that it's even, it's even top of foundation, you have to allow 6 inches, right? Below the top of foundation has to be included in the calculation, even if you were on a totally level lot.
Right.
Right, so if anybody came in with 30 feet from top of foundation, it's not compliant, right? Because it's 30 feet from 6 inches below the top of foundation is what the zoning reads. So, it's a difficult compliance thing, like I said, it's just that validation, right, of not trying to, imply that anybody would do this, but given the fact that the applicant is the one that fills out all that information, right, their tendency is going to be to fill it out to be most favorable to the interpretation.
Yeah.
And where is the stop point that says, wait a minute, I looked at your drawings, no, right? And I think it's in the building commission, right? That's what Jack is doing.
Right. Any further discussion on this? Okay, appreciate it.
Does there need to be a vote to amend the application? Do you just want me to add the language to the application?
We can vote on that. I'd like to have a motion that we adjust the application to reflect the building height codes. All right, do I have a second on that?
Second. Chris?
Chris? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Any other old business?
Did we all get our compliance, whatever it was we had to do? Training?
I'm afraid to ask.
I did it, no one told me.
Did we all do our compliance?
Did they get, yes, did they get a notification?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Oh.
I wasn't checking, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure you'll get an email if you don't have it done.
And you'll have to, the next meeting, stand in the corner, but,
Bonus cap.
You gave us a deadline, but when I went to the website, it was actually a month after, so I don't know if
Oh.
you did that on purpose, but I wanted to go to the last
Yeah.
minute.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Teacher's trick, indeed.
Okay, well, I guess there's no other correspondence or briefings, and I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Second? Okay. We're out of here.
Aye.